So, yeah, so being tortured by an evil version of your father, that makes you bi.
It's a new way. It's a new way of talking about "Hey, Daddy." Say "Hey, Daddy."
Hello and welcome to Incomplete Geeks, a gay geek podcast. I'm Nick, this is John, and we've been known to do some Martian manhunting ourselves in our time. And we're here to talk about DC Comics.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good one.
That'll
Well,
do, right?
it'll more than do.
I
It's a
thought
good
about,
one. I'm pleased.
I was trying to something about Crisis on Infinite Girths, but I thought that was a little bit too far. A little bit too far
Maybe.
removed. Just a little bit too far removed.
Yeah, I
So,
wouldn't.
welcome. Today we will be talking about something I am interested in, but am not anywhere near an expert on. We'll be talking about DC Comics. I'm a long-time Marvel fan, but I do still enjoy all the DC stuff. I'm just not up to speed with all of it. So we have an extra special guest with us today. Dell, the DC expert, is going to be telling us about his experience with DC, why he loves it, why it's brilliant, and why it's gay.
Why it's
Come
better
on,
than Marvel
Dell.
in all ways, right, Del?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Welcome to the show, Del. Thanks for coming on.
Oh,
Thanks for being our first guest.
am I actually the first guest? I thought you would have had guests before.
Well,
No one's been good enough. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
no one's passed our standards yet. You're the first one. Also, we have no idea about DC. We need to. I know somebody. Let's bring in Del.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're our first guest, and we're going to run this by. We'll just see how it goes. So, as you know, we'll just ask you some questions about DC that we are both interested in. Hopefully, our listeners will also have similar questions, if they're not DC nerds like you are, and maybe they'll even have their own things to join. If, by the way, if you're listening to this and you want to have if you have a comment or a question, you can write in at incompletegeekspodcast@gmail.com. Please feel free to write us an email. We will see it and maybe laugh at it.
not at it, but laugh with it.
We'll laugh with you and while you read it, yeah,
It's funny.
because we're branching into unknown territory today. So, so DC, as we know, has been around for longer than Marvel, hasn't it? But how did you, Del, get into comics, and was it always like what got you into DC?
Well, to be honest, when I was a kid, I started. Well, it was because of the Batman show, the '60s Batman show we used to watch as a kid in the mornings. That's how I started reading Batman comics years ago. And then, obviously, as a kid, you move into school, you go into your 20s, then you're too busy doing life and stuff. And then I ended up getting dragged to New York Comic Con one year by my friend Lara. And while I was there, I sort of rediscovered the Blackest Night storyline for DC, and that got me right back into comics again. So I started back reading after reading Blackest Night, stuff like that. And then I've got to the point now where I pretty much read everything. I'm a few months behind on the comics at the moment, but I generally read everything DC releases because I'm that much of a nerd about it.
So what draws you to DC more than Marvel then?
I
Is
just
it
think
just
it's.
because you were always part of it? You were always into it?
I kind of prefer the characters. I feel like, in my opinion, like Nick, you can disagree with this since you're the Marvel fan, but I feel like DC has a stronger set of base characters because you've got like iconic people like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. You just know from the start, everyone knows who they are, and they're like your core people. Whereas like with MCU, it's more like the X-Men are the ones I always think of when I think about the MCU because it's a group rather than a set of people. And that's probably the reason I got more into DC. Though, ironically, my favourite character in DC is Green Lantern, which is probably the least well-known one.
Yeah, definitely. I think DC have got the more iconic characters, and they're easily recognizable. So, yeah, I love the X-Men and always will do. But isn't Superman like the most famous fictional character of all time? So you can't really compete with that. So you're a Green Lantern fan mostly, and like, is that the kind of main character that you follow, or is there like a story that made you even more of a fan, or is it just all of the characters or a particular character?
Well, one of the reasons I like the Green Lantern character is because the Green Lantern doesn't actually have superpowers. All of the powers come from, and you can make a joke about this, from a magic ring. There's one for the game. And
Oh, that would have been a good one. Oh,
Yeah. Well, do your powers come from your ring? No.
oh.
occasionally they do.
Occasionally, yeah. I've known a
Yeah.
few guys in my time who thought it did, but it wasn't really. Gonna ask you, like if the Green Lantern, because a lot of superpowers from what I understand, superpowers in DC don't always come like innately as part of you. They come from an external source. Is that a distinct difference? Does that make it more appealing?
Yeah, I think the thing about the Green Lantern stuff is because Green Lantern started off as as like years ago. Because basically, Green Lantern's been around since DC came around. If I remember correctly, around 1941, I think is when DC started. It was in the 1940s that it started up, and like that character's brought in within the first decade, as far as I know. But it started off as Alan Scott, who later went on to be retconned to be the gay Green Lantern. So, so it's like because the original one got his powers. He was in a accident on a train crash, and somehow he found this burning lantern and got the ring from it. And then the weird thing was his only weakness then was wood, which also I quite find funny.
What?
Yeah,
That's odd.
a confusing weakness to have. I know it's bizarre, but as the years went on, DC obviously they reboot and reboot and reboot. So they went forward and basically made it. They changed the character. They wanted to make it more space age because it was around the time Star Wars was coming out. They wanted to try and build into that and try and build that storyline into the comics. So, and that's when they made it into the space age. That's when it became the Green Lantern Corps. And that basically was when they then made the ring was made from extreme alien technology, would be the Owens. That's like another race that created the technology. And then the antagonist was also created by them. It was one of their creations that went wrong, which was the Manhunters, which was the main antagonist for a while. So, and then the technology sort of spiders out because when Geoff Johns took on the property back in, I think that would have been the mid 2000s, he started writing it. He started changing it into what he called the emotional spectrum. They brought in all the different colours of rings that all meant different things. So was it green was willpower, purple was love, red is rage, orange is avarice, not avarice, greed. There's loads of other ones. Blue was what was it, hope?
Hope.
Yeah. So I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. I'm really forgetting it.
Yellow was fear.
Yeah,
yellow seems to be the opposite of the green, doesn't it?
Yeah, the yellow is fear. So that's like so the main bad guy, Sinestro, who was around before, because Sinestro was a Green Lantern, and there's the whole story of how he became the bad guy. But then eventually, when they brought in the emotional spectrum, having him as the being of fear and the being of willpower, they just that worked, and they've been using it. But Sinestro just flips back and forth. Sometimes a bad guy, sometimes a good guy. You're never quite sure. So
okay.
Sometimes is he a bad guy, or is he one of these kind of like bad guys that are now good guys, the way Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn and all the others, it becomes like, oh, they're bad guys. Or Magneto is like, oh, they're bad guys, but actually we really like them, so they become good guys? Or do they keep him as quite evil still to this day?
Well, the thing about Sinestro is that he has an idea of what he thinks is the right thing to do. You know, like with the whole Marvel thing about they say about Thanos is like he's not actually bad. He just has this idea and he thinks it will make everything better. It's kind of similar to that. He just believes you have to have a stronger level of control over people, and he believes controlling people through fear will cause the universe to be more controlled and better run, so to speak. So there's sort of similarities there between Marvel and DC when you look at that sort of thing. But then if you look at that Marvel storyline with Thanos, if you look at it in the comic books and what it is in the films, it's actually completely different.
So different, yeah. It's such a long way from it.
I've got a question. If I can enter, so you mentioned the Silver Age. What is that exactly? Like, what's the era of that? Because I'm not familiar with what that term means exactly. Like, I've heard of it around, but I don't know what the Silver Age refers to.
There was there's different ages, isn't it? So I think the Golden Age is the start, and that's from like the 40s. Don't quote me on this. I'm assuming it was to around the 60s, 70s. Then you go into the Silver Age, which ended sometime in the 80s. And then in the 90s is when it became the modern age. That's how they sort of...
Oh, right, okay.
So that's basically...
because the golden age of comics is when they were all kind of... Yeah, it's the same with Marvel. Obviously, they had less time. Although they had, like, Captain America and Submariner in the kind of golden age. That's when it was just so few creators. It was pulp magazines and newspapers, that kind of thing. Silver Age is when they kind of, I guess, got a little bit more cohesive and people bought comic books and that sort of stuff. And then modern age is just the crazy, wonderful world we live in now, I guess.
Yeah, where everyone's gay.
Everyone's gay and into comic books.
Well, there was a point where comics were regulated, weren't there? I've forgotten what the actual thing was called, because there was the regulation thing of saying you couldn't do or say certain things in comics. I've forgotten what the rule was.
Comics Authority Code.
Yeah, that's it, the Comic Authority thing. But that sort of that disappeared around the modern age, didn't it? Because that's when the modern age started. That was sort of gone. Because that's the reason, like you get the women, the dead women in fridges trope, because that actually came from the Green Lantern comic.
Was from Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I have a Green Lantern question. Who is your favorite iteration of Green Lantern? Who is your favorite Green Lantern?
It's really... I would have originally said it was actually both Kara and Hal Jordan, but since they've had the new female ones, I really love Jessica Cruz. And
Yay!
I really love Jessica Cruz. And the new girl from Far Sector is really good. Actually, I'm going to grab the comics. I've actually forgotten her name, but I do love the character. But it's a brand new one. And she's actually...
I love the sound of Del leaving the microphone. It's just sort of...
I'm going to go get him.
I'll get it. 1 second.
I'm just going to walk to my bookshelf and find my answers. So... so I've just completely forgotten her name, but she is brilliant. Oh,
I had no idea they were doing... It makes complete sense, but I had no idea they were doing female Green Lanterns now.
Back in the olden age, in the silver, or like even in the beginning of the modern age, did they have a core of Green Lanterns, or was it just when Jeff Johns just did the Emotion Spectrum? Or they always had like a full core of Green Lanterns on Oa, that sort of thing.
Oh, there's tons and tons of Green Lanterns. Which you think they're supposed to have one per space sector, aren't they?
Mm.
I'm trying to find the name of this Green Lantern character, but it's like I literally can't find it.
Gonna bug you now.
Well, it's amazing how I'm on the spot and I completely forget. I wouldn't be able to say this.
See, sometimes we get things wrong. We're not complete geeks.
I know, we're not complete geeks. I often wonder. I often suggest to Nick as well that we should do probably like a corrections kind of. Like a bit. So like, oh, by the way, you mentioned this in the previous episode, but we were wrong. We'll correct it now, but we haven't got to that point.
I found that Joe Mullen's the newest one, but that might be more to do with the fact that they've written the book really well. I am holding this up even though you can't see it for John, so John can see it at least. And that's the most recent answer. It's Joe Mullen, and she's a lesbian.
Yay!
Cool. So that brings into the whole gay bit slightly. So. Yeah. She's quite cool. She's like a sassy black woman, lesbian, and she's just like, yeah, I can't be dealing with you. Fuck you. I'm just going. You're gonna do as I tell you. And she's just brilliant. It was like the new writer that came in and did her was actually very clever. Because Jessica Cruz was sort of brilliant as this really fearful person that overcome her fear, and that's why she became like the Green Lantern. And it was like, but I kind of like that Joe Mullen just came and it's like, no, I ain't dealing with you. You're gonna do as you're told. I don't like you. It's that sort of situation. That's what I quite like about it.
Yeah.
So, but we should move on. I'm waffling on about Green Lantern. We probably should talk about other DC bits. Do you have any other?
Well,
you do what you want. I mean, I like hearing what you. I think people want to hear like what you are passionate about. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's true, I suppose. It's just that it's just most people will probably, if they're hearing about DC, they're going to want to hear about Wonder Woman and things like that. Like Wonder Woman and Batman.
Superman. Yeah.
But that kind of like you talked about how they are iconic and well known and they're really well established, but it's something that we kind of talked about a bit before. Like with the Green Lantern Corps, you can, and it's in outer space, there's hundreds of thousands of different scenarios and characters and side things and that sort of stuff. I think that's really fascinating and they could go on forever. How on earth do they keep writing Batman stories and Superman stories after 80 years or whatever it is that he's been in the comics?
Oh god, yeah.
How, I don't know, with a cast of one character as the lead that's been around for so long, how they kind of keep them fresh. Do they do like big long story arcs? Does it seem a bit repetitive? I think, are you more of maybe a Batman fan than a Superman fan? But like, how's the character changed over time, and how do they keep the stories interesting without being
I think
the same old thing?
Arguably, I'd say Superman has been the hardest one for them to keep fresh because they do have a habit of just killing him every time they get there. Like, oh, like literally, it's like remember when they had. If you looked at the, if you read back at the interviews they said about way back in the, was it in the 90s when they originally killed him? They got Doomsday to have the massive battle and they just fought each other to death. And basically they said the reason they came up with that story was because they thought, well, what? They was sat in a room saying, well, what can we do? We've done everything. What are we going to do? And someone said, oh, why don't we just kill him for a laugh? And they was like, you know what, we'll actually do it. And that is literally how they decided to kill Superman. Someone come up with an idea in a board meeting, so we couldn't think of anything new. And so, we'll just kill him. But I actually know that. I've read so many articles about it. It always shocks me. But it has probably been one of the most iconic things they've ever done. So if you've actually got the original comic of like when Superman was killed, that's worth like grands now, I think. Like lots of money. It's insane what it's worth. So it's like, but they come up with that.
I literally remember, I can see it in my mind, holding that comic book in my hand in the supermarket, and I wasn't a comic book reader at the time. I remember looking, it's like, oh my god, they killed off Superman. How are they going to do that? And put it back.
Should have bought it.
Like I literally had that comic book in my hand.
Well done.
Like, whatever.
That was a deposit for a house. Years later. But it's quite. But you think about it, right now, the entire Justice League is dead, aren't they? I haven't read the storyline, but they've just killed them all off because the current storyline going through DC at the moment is the Dark Crisis. So all of the next generation are trying to fight through what's going on because the entire Justice League is dead. Because I know that's currently going on, so they've killed everyone again. Because Wonder Woman's only just come back to life after being dead, and they've killed her yet again. So she's died.
Oh my god!
Well, so she died and became a god at the end of the Death Metal storyline.
Can I ask a stupid non-comic reader question about DC? So I know that in Marvel you have what they call Earth 616, which is like the main storyline, but it's really, like there seems to be one authority where like this is what happens in the main storyline. We have like offshoots of different universes or different Earths or whatever. Do they have something similar in DC where it's like this is the one main storyline of the DC universe? And then, because I feel like because there's a lot of talk about different universes, that there doesn't seem to be like one through line. Is there like one sort of like what's the word? Like there's one authority of what the main story is.
So the main one, so the equivalent of 161 in DC would be Earth Zero. So Earth Zero is just the main one. It's like they did it on the DC shows, like they just did on the CW shows. They call it Earth Prime. In the comics, it might have changed now since the latest Rebirth storyline, but it's been Earth Zero for a very long time because Earth One is a whole other line of comics, and then Earth Two, which is where Alan Scott got moved to when they made him gay, because in the modern age they made him gay, but on Earth 2, not Earth 1. But since the Death Metal storyline, which is another like crisis event, because DC, every time they're having trouble with their continuity, they just have a crisis and it changes everything.
Yeah.
So it's like they do love
like in Marvel they call them incursions, I suppose, and they just sort of have to.
Oh really? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
No.
I'm assuming it's the same thing. I don't know. You tell me. Yeah. But like, it seems like anytime that there's a crossover and they're not sure like which direction to go. It's hard because you have such a big universe in both Marvel and DC, from what I understand, and we're just talking about comics as well, where you've got such a wide, vast array. Like I'm assuming you have like multiple storylines going on at once. Like you have an X-Men storyline and a Avengers storyline and like whatever, or like Guardians of the Galaxy, whatever, and they all have to sort of exist in the same universe. It's hard to keep track of that continuity-wise, I'm sure.
Yeah, DC tried the big thing when they did the New 52. They basically wanted to do that and keep all the continuity very tight and make everything make sense across all comics. But a lot of the writers at the time were saying that they found it far too restrictive. They basically said that, so basically when what was I saying?
Earth 52? What is 52?
So the New 52 was like a line. There was one point DC Comics decided they wanted to relaunch the entire line with de-aged characters and basically have a coherent continuity across all comics. And that went on for about 7 or 8 years, I think, before all the writers were like, no, we're fed up with this. We've lost too much history. There's stuff we've gone wrong. But there's certain comics, like, for example, I think Batman was brilliant during that time. Wonder Woman was amazing during that time. But certain comics, like Superman, sort of suffered because they just suddenly had to start Superman all over again from being, like, in his 20s and being a bit of a dick. That was the sort of situation when they had Superman going out with Wonder Woman, who was just friends with Lois Lane. And it just didn't really...
I have no idea. I remember that.
No, there was a point where Wonder Woman and Superman were together because they was going to make that into a big crisis moment because their child would have been far too powerful, but then the storyline just sort of got left to the wayside when they did the Rebirth and just basically put a lot of the continuity back. Because the Superman from the New 52 actually died, another dead Superman, and was replaced by the original Superman from the initial timeline that got stuck somehow during one of the crises. And he was that's where John Kent originally came from because he was born during one of the crises. But then as another crisis happened, his history got rewritten through probably hyper time or something else. And then Jonathan Bendis, the reason he's a teenager now and can be bisexual is because Jonathan Bendis decided to chuck him in a volcano for 10 years with like Ultraman, who's the evil Superman for another universe, just torturing him for 10 years. He seems to have come out with absolutely no PTSD at all and is now the new Superman. But hey, that's life.
And he's bisexual, so why not?
He's bisexual. Yeah, so being tortured by an evil version of your father, that makes you bi. It turns out that's the DC way.
It's a new way of talking about "Hey, Daddy." Say, "Hey, Daddy." How does it? Okay, because I think a lot of storylines have this problem. This is my personal opinion, obviously, but like it sounds like they're having the problem with Superman, and they have a problem, in my opinion, with Captain Marvel in the MCU, but also with Doctor Strange in the Marvel. It's just that they're too powerful. Like, if they can do anything, or even Scarlet Witch to a degree, like, if they can do anything, then, like, what problem can you throw at them that they just can't solve automatically? And so it's kind of a storytelling issue you have to get over. Like, I remember talking about, like, every sort of thing the X-Men every sort of film or storyline of the X-Men from the cartoons even that they had to figure out was they had to get rid of Professor X first, otherwise they had no problem. they could just fly in Professor X or whoever. So maybe that's why Superman is sort of, like you said, they struggle to keep him fresh, is because he just can do anything, I suppose. I don't even know how you would kill Superman if he's just...
It's not actually true, really, because you think, like, most of the time, Kryptonite is part of the storyline, because Kryptonite can make him human in seconds, pretty much. And also, what a lot of people don't take into account is that Superman is completely and utterly susceptible to magic. So it's like, for example, if you put Superman versus Scarlet Witch would just kill him in seconds. Because he has no defense against his powers, and they don't work against magic, basically.
Purely physical.
That's why if they ever need to defeat Superman quickly, they always chuck in a magic user. Because it's like, 'cause in the comics, he actually does training sessions of Zatanna, who's one of the magic users in DC, to try and help him learn how to deal with magic.
Has he been proven if he's resistant to psychic attack? Like, has Martian Manhunter done anything like where he's vulnerable to psychic attack, or is it just magic? Any idea?
No. He is Superman is vulnerable to psychic attacks. Okay. There's a storyline in one of the Batman stories. I think it was during the Hush storyline, actually, that Poison Ivy actually managed to hypnotize Superman.
Okay.
And use him to fight Batman.
So he's pretty shit, basically, is what you're saying, is that Superman's...
He's just all powerful, but can be easily corrupted by other people. That's the thing. Superman's a bit of a wild card. So it's like, that's why
Superman's a glass cannon?
Yeah. He's easily swayed by like psychic or like magic, and obviously Kryptonite can knock him out. So it's like, even though he is all powerful, they've chucked in enough weaknesses that you can still keep him relatively interesting.
Did you read the Injustice storyline like that? I guess that was an alternate thing where he went nuts and took over the world. That went on for ages. Did you read any of that?
You know what? That was one of the only comics I actually avoided because I played through the games instead. Because also a video game nerd, so the whole story was there. But that was an interesting take, because the way they got round that was that basically the storyline was the Joker hypnotized. He like tricked him with Joker gas and toxin to make him think that Lois Lane was Doomsday. So he killed pregnant Lois, and he then killed the Joker for making him think that. So that's a good example of him being like corrupted by something, and that's how they did the Injustice universe. So when he killed the only human he properly cared about, he was like, right, that's it. World's going to come under my thumb. I'm going to do what I think is right. And then you got the whole resistance of Batman and stuff. But the thing is that it all came out after the Justice League redo by Zack Snyder, that his universe was completely based on the Injustice universe, and Superman was always meant to go bad. And that's the reason they had him kill Zod in the first film. Because remember, Superman's not supposed to kill. Because it was always meant to be based on the Injustice universe, they wanted a corruptible Superman.
I really enjoyed that.
Because the idea was always to do the full storyline of what Zack Snyder had done, and then there was going to be a crisis to fix it all.
What if they just copied that from The Boys as well? Homelander is pretty much just a corrupted Superman.
Oh god, yeah, it's like The Boys is brilliant. Going completely off DC, I love The Boys. It's an amazing series, and that's based on a comic as well. The comic is much harsher though, severely harsh.
Good God, I don't think I.
It's like if you look at like the outfits they tried to put or was it Starlight into, they haven't like it's literally just like a little thong with like tiny tassels over her tits and that's it.
Oh my
It's really quite
Yeah.
weird.
God, gross.
It's like if you Google what her outfit looks like in the comics, it's actually hilarious what they're supposed to put her in. So
Well, speaking of TV shows, like talk to us a little bit about different kind of DC TV shows that have been on over the years, because I think if you want to balance it, I mean it's hard to not compare it with Marvel, but I think DC kind of was winning for a long time with TV shows.
to be honest, DC TV and DC animated is usually better. Their animated films are better.
Yeah, animated, yeah.
And the TV series are usually better. Like for example, I don't know if you've watched Sandman on Netflix yet, but that is just exceptional. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Is that DC as well?
And, yeah, Sandman. Sandman was part of the Vertigo line. 'Cause you know, DC
Oh.
back in the 90s, they had their adult editions of stuff, which was called the Vertigo stuff. So Vertigo is meant to be more comics, but that is a DC imprint, as was Wildstorm. Now all of that stuff is done under DC Black Label.
Did
So,
you see?
but,
They tried to launch at some point a few years ago, like another adult DC one, and they released an issue of Batman where you saw his dick. Did you remember?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that was the first Black Label because I actually sent that picture to one of my friends. I was like, you're going to love this," and I sent it to him. That got edited out a little bit later, though. Apparently, in later editions of the edition, they edited it out.
We all
So sort of
saw it.
uproar.
So
And he is circumcised, so there we go. Just in case anyone was
Yeah.
curious.
if I Googled Batman's penis right now, what would I find?
Yeah, you'll find it.
You
should
might
find
find
it.
Yeah, you should find it. I'm trying to remember what that story.
Okay,
was.
bear with.
I was just
That is
interested in the
interesting.
dick. I was just interested in the dick. But yes, as
Yeah.
something you said, like I'm not a huge fan of the DC live action TV shows. They don't tick any of my boxes. But DC animation is what's the words I want to use? It's just the best fucking thing ever. Their TV shows
Yeah.
are
Oh, I've seen this. I've seen this photo before.
unparalleled. Justice League Unlimited, and Young Justice are just TV show wise are fucking brilliant, and the movies as well. All the animated movies, they're fucking ace. So that's something they kick Marvel's ass on. Hands
The
down.
only animated movie I think they had an epic fail on was The Killing Joke. I don't know if you've ever read the original Killing Joke. It's like an iconic Batman storyline.
Is that the one with Batgirl?
Yeah, that's the one where Batgirl actually gets. That's where she ends up in the wheelchair because that's the one where the Joker shoots her in the spine.
Yeah.
So it's like because that's like an iconic story. But they tried to do an animated version of it, and they added in this whole extra bit about Batman shagging Batgirl that wasn't part of the comic, and it actually ruined the story for me in the animated version. I was like, this is not. Barbara Gordon had never slept with Bruce Wayne.
No.
Her
That was a
affair-
film?
Yeah, it's an animated film. Yeah,
Oh,
they have
God.
a shag on a rooftop. It's really stupid. It just makes no sense. Because in the comics, like it's always her and Dick Grayson that are always in their will they, won't they
Yeah.
thing. Because there was a big story because at the point where Dick Grayson married Starfire at one point, didn't he? And then their divorce was a big storyline in Teen Titans.
Oh bless.
So I was hoping to see them put them together in the Titans TV show, which is good, by the way. So
That would be
The live
Starfire
action
is-
one, you mean?
yeah, oh yeah, the Starfire is the best character in that though. She's just fierce. She's brilliant. She's like superpowered Beyonce.
Oh my god, she is superpower Beyonce. I love it. That's great.
Yeah, it really does make sense.
The guys are really hot in that as well. So Titans is a
Oh god, the guy that plays Connor is so hot.
Oh,
That
so
show
fucking hot.
is brilliant.
so fucking hot.
Yeah.
I should start watching this then.
Yes, absolutely should.
Yeah, you should. You should watch the Sandman as well. I really recommend Sandman. Sandman was incredibly well done. They actually made a good film based on because DC obviously does stuff that's not normal superheroes. Because like, have you ever heard of a comic called The Kitchen? And they made a film of it. And was it Melissa McCarthy
Melissa
plays one of the
McCarthy.
main characters?
Yeah.
Yeah, she plays one of the main characters in the film version of it. It's called The Kitchen. It's about three women that end up taking over the mafia in Hell's Kitchen during. I think it's set in the 70s, but that is based on a DC comic called The Kitchen.
Oh. I've
So-
heard of that film, but I didn't know it was based on a
I
comic.
didn't know that either.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a DC comic. DC does a lot of really out there and random things. You'd be very surprised or the stuff that you wouldn't know is DC. It's like Hellblazer. Everyone assumes that's something else. That's actually DC. Like John Constantine pops as part. The reason he pops on DC, but he wasn't bought. He was created as part of the Vertigo line because he comes from the Sandman, which was the thing that launched Vertigo.
Oh.
Well, Constantine comes from Sandman.
Yeah, so a lot.
Or
And
they
so
both
does
come from the same thing.
Now, you know the Lucifer TV series. You must have heard of that. That was on for
Yeah.
a while. Yeah, he came
Yeah.
from. He's from Sandman as well.
Oh,
So
I
Sandman.
love-
A lot of characters came.
learning new things here.
you mean Lucifer as in like Tom Ellis is the
Yeah.
TV show with Tom Ellis?
Yeah, that character came from the Sandman comic originally.
Okay, I love how in the Sand. I haven't seen it yet, but I've read about it. The Lucifer character is played by Gwendolyn Christie, who
Yeah.
as Brienne of Tarth, obviously, is and like she plays Lucifer. This is like she's got like the blonde hair and the big wings and stuff. She looks.
But the reason you can
fabulous.
get away with that is because Lucifer can appear however he pleases, or she pleases. He's meant to be
Sure.
sexless or over-sexed or whatever it is. I don't know. But basically, there's that sort of thing there with the Sandman. Because another thing as well that people don't. You must have heard of Swamp Thing. You know, Swamp Thing's actually a spun-off character from Hellblazer. So he actually comes from the Constantine stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not many people
It's
know
got
that.
a larger universe than I realized.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's really funny how a lot of new characters in DC come from spin-offs from other ones. So I'm surprising myself at how much I remember. It's really lots of useless knowledge, but I've got it all.
Lovely. Keep it all.
Yeah, we know very little, so it's easy to impress us.
I know nothing.
Yeah, there's probably somebody listening to this podcast right now going, "He's wrong. He's wrong. That's not right."
yeah.
Well, welcome to our world.
yeah,
To us
yeah.
all the time. All the
Just
time.
go with it.
Yeah, it's true.
Should we talk about
Yeah.
gays in comic books? Because it's something that I kind of think DC was ahead of the curve than Marvel, of introducing like queer characters and establishing characters as queer. I mean, even Wonder Woman is
Wonder
now,
Woman.
Wonder Woman is now canonically bisexual, I believe. So
So she was always bisexual. It just wasn't mentioned because you think she was brought up
course she
on an
was.
island of only women. And it's just something. It was just one of those things that was unsaid. But now in recent years, they think, well, right, we can get away with saying it now. So it's like something. I don't know if you watch the Wonder Woman film, there's actually a little quip about it when they're on the boat going to London, and then she talks about having sex with women on that. It's a very quick throwaway line, but it
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
confirms it straight away that she slept with women.
What in the recent Wonder Woman, like
Yeah.
the new
Yeah.
the new, oh
Yeah,
I missed it.
she meant like
Yeah,
they're
there's a little
talking
quip.
about like how you have babies and how you procreate, and because there's no men. And he's like, "But what about sex?" She's like, "Oh no, we know about sex." So it's like
Right.
they
Something along the lines of "you don't need a man for pleasure," isn't it? It was something
Yeah.
like that.
It's like, we don't need you for
Yeah.
that. Don't worry, Chris Pine. You are not required for that.
I want to know what happens to the baby boys that are born on that island. Do they just get killed or something?
There
or
aren't any
sacrificed?
baby boys born on that island. No one's born on the island. That's the point.
Oh no, boys are born on the island because Wonder Woman does have a brother that was hidden away
What?
and thrown away from the island. Yeah, Wonder Woman had a brother that was actually taken away from the island because the whole thing about Wonder Woman being made of clay
Yeah.
that got retconned at one point, and it turned out that Wonder Woman that was all a lie apparently because the mum didn't want to tell anyone. It turns out that Wonder Woman is the daughter of Zeus.
Retcons.
So because
Oh my god, retcons.
Yeah, him and Pearl had a bit of bow wow moment, and then knocked her out and her brother out, and so she had twins. So Wonder Woman has a twin brother.
Oh my god.
And he got taken away to like normal lands and was raised like as a normal person. It's like, but because there's a later storyline that comes in after because there's another one that's Dark Side's like the version of Thanos from the DC universe because she's actually got like a. There's another one that's from one of her cousins. Is half Dark Side and half Themysciran, and she's called Grail. And she comes back in and tries to corrupt her brother to get the brother to come in and kill Wonder Woman. It's actually a very interesting story. It sort of peters out a bit in the end, and he's sort of pushed off. So he decides after they've got everything back, they decide, yeah, we're all fine. He says, I'm going to go off and find myself. You never hear of the character again. But Wonder Woman does have a brother.
How long ago did this happen? Was this
I
revealed?
think in the continuity of the comics, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I think.
So
I
not
could,
too
I'd,
long.
have, I'd, have, I could have to find this and email it to you, and then you can just add it in as an addendum in the comments or something.
Oh no! Well, Del, you said the R word, which is going to trigger Nick a little bit. I think we're
Fucking
going to
Nick.
have a big old.
Yeah.
We're going to have a big old rant about it one day. But yeah, so
Are there other
Definitely bisexual.
queer characters besides Wonder Woman that you think are done particularly well, or that you like? Whether you like, you mentioned the Green Lantern, but there are any others that you think are really good, or even ones that you think are like, that's a bit like they're introduced just to be a queer character, because we talked about that with X-Men.
Yeah.
The Green Lantern one, I wasn't overly keen on when they did that, because when they changed Alan Scott to be engaged, you got to remember in the comics, Alan Scott has 2 children, because both Obsidian and Jade are his children, because he had children with one of his enemies. He ended up sleeping with one of his enemies. That's how he had Jade and Obsidian, which are his kids.
Okay.
But then when they moved him into Earth 2, Jade and Obsidian were taken out of continuity. He was moved to a separate Earth, and that's when he was made gay. They sort of redid his origin when dying. His boyfriend died in the train crash. There, he got his powers, and that's how they got
Not
around.
the fridge, then.
Not fridging.
No, that was Carl Rayner's girlfriend that died in the fridge.
Yeah.
Can I just point out as well that gays can still have children, but it's interesting that they wrote those 2 children out for Earth 2.
Yeah, but basically, now they've just restored one of the recent storylines where after Death Metal, they restored. The latest thing they've done is they've made it so all continuity counts, and they've sort of rewritten the rules of hypertime. So what they're saying is, the way they're working out is for every 1 year that passes in the DC universe is something like 20 years. So they live. There's a real random comment in one of the recent comics where they say that the DC universe ages significantly slower than other Earths. So that's the reason why Batman is only in his 30s, where he should actually be dead by now, because he should be 80.
They actually address the sliding timescale, because obviously that's a thing in all comics. That these people.
Yeah, they've addressed it.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah, they've addressed it and said that it takes them a hell of a lot longer to age. So I think it's something like 30 years to every 1 Earth year or something.
Which does kind of make sense.
So 30 years now time passes, and only 1 year passes for them. It's something like that. So Batman won't... Technically, I think the way they've written it now, Batman won't be 40 until like 2070 or something.
Oh, Jesus.
It's something like that. They've just said time moves differently, and that's how they've got around it. It's actually quite a clever way to get around it, but that was written in the latest storyline where they re-merged all of the continuity. So because it's quite interesting, because they brought Jade and Obsidian back, and they've come back out of nowhere, and their dad's like a little bit older, and they're like, they pretty much say to him, we got lost in a crisis, didn't we? And he was like, yeah, I didn't even know you existed for X amount of time. And then they have this long discussion, and then he goes, and they have this really heartwarming moment where he has to sit and goes, just like, I've got something to tell you.
Aww.
And then he tells them that he's gay, and then Jade's like, oh, I always knew.
Oh, that's nice.
Surprised, and that's about it.
Aww.
It's actually quite sweet.
That's sweet.
So they did. Yeah, does most of the most recent gay characters that come out, because like obviously you've got Batwoman, she was a lesbian from day one.
Yep.
So Kate Kane was always a lesbian from the start. And recent ones have come out. Who would think so? Tim Drake is the most recent to come out, but he's come out as bisexual, hasn't he? Because he was with Stephanie Brown for ages. Like she was the 3rd or the 4th Batgirl, and then he's suddenly come out, and now he's got a boyfriend. John Kent's bisexual.
They come out, and then like in a second they have a boyfriend. Yet I'm still single. Screw you guys.
Oh god, yeah. If you're in a comic book, you like come out and you instantly got a boyfriend.
Well,
that's amazing.
That'd be lovely.
That's because they have superpowers and have really hot bodies, Nick. That's why. You
have to be single in the DC universe. It's the way forward.
Yeah.
How old is Tim Drake? Do they address how old he is when he comes out? Because he's obviously a Robin.
Well, he's only well, he was just getting ready to start American universities. How old are you when you go to university in America?
Like 18, 19, yeah.
Yeah. So him and Stephanie are supposed to be around that age. So they were just getting ready to go to university when they split up and he met his new fella. So I think John Kent, I think, is roundabout meant to be 16 because he's in high school. Are you still in high school at 16 in America?
Yeah.
So he's probably 15, 16, and he's already got a boyfriend. So I imagine he must be around.
Young he's gays. Ugh.
Bisexual.
Yeah. Well, John Kent's
more.
I can't remember his name, but just know he's got purple hair because, like I said, I'm a bit behind on my reading, but I'm sort of catching up here and there. So it's like he's got this new boyfriend who's like another kind of news reporter because obviously anyone in the Superman story has to be something to do with being a news reporter. So, and Wonder Woman's had girlfriends over the years as well. So it's like.
So when we were talking about the X-Men generally, how like they all seem to be kind of queer in a way. Like, are they doing something? The more recent comics in DC, are they? Because they're trying to reach a younger audience, I'm assuming, that are they more likely to introduce characters that are LGBTQ?
I think the way they seem to be getting around from this is an opinion rather than a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way they're doing it now is they're just basically being really ambiguous with people's sexuality now, so they can just sort of decide. Because you think like Harley Quinn was meant to be the Joker's boyfriend for ages, but her main love affair in the DC comics is with Poison Ivy.
I love it.
It's like one of the most
really?
main. Yeah, it like their romance is one of the most important stories if you read anything about Harley Quinn, because they literally have died for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like because Poison Ivy, she died, has been reconstituted as mostly plant, and now she's split in two, and like Harley Quinn's trying to find both parts of her to restore her to get her girlfriend back.
So is that
Wow.
the case in the comics as well as in the TV show that they made them a couple?
I don't think they addressed it in the TV show, but in the comics, it's their relationship is a very important thing. As you think like for years they just had was it Harley, Catwoman, and Poison Ivy all just best mates, but because they've had Catwoman going off to be more of a hero rather than a villain, she's got off with Batman because like you think like Batman and one was like there was a big storyline about where Batman and Catwoman almost got married. It was really disappointing when
I
that
do
didn't
remember that.
happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was really disappointing when it didn't happen. And it's like, but the
disappointing.
Harley,
Yeah.
yeah, it was because it was just such a cop out when it didn't happen. It was just like really. So
And doesn't Batman end up with like Talia al Ghul instead?
no, that he shagged Tyler Al Ghul way back when, because that's Damian Wayne's mum, isn't it? Tyler Al Ghul, but Tyler Al Ghul
Right.
killed. You remember she kills Damian Wayne at one point in the Batman Incorporated storyline.
Nope,
And that's
didn't know that.
No, literally, like she doesn't kill him. She creates like this clone of him, much older. Basically, she created this clone of him, but like is aged up and a bit of a mess, and he kills Damian Wayne in the Batman Incorporated storyline, and she go ahead and do it, and that's why Batman in like I think within a year of the comic continuity, Batman goes off to Apocalypse to get something to revive him, and then he manages to revive Damian Wayne, and that's why he's back.
Oh.
There was a big
Don't they have
story-
like don't they can't they just throw them in the Lazarus pits or something like that?
The Lazarus Pits
was-
is a bit of the Lazarus Pits are just sort of semi-used here and there. Sometimes like, there was some reason, I can't remember why, they couldn't do it. For some reason they couldn't resurrect him using a Lazarus Pit, and that's why he had to go all the way to Apocalypse to get something to bring him back to life.
So it was a case of like just this one time we can't use them, but it sounds like more of a plot device. Yeah.
If you got to remember that Damian Wayne wasn't actually born properly, he was test tube baby, wasn't he? So because
I don't know.
because Tyler Al Ghul actually, there was I can't remember how she somehow stole Batman's DNA. She grew him in a lab, and it's like, but that's the reason she can make clones quite easily, and that's the reason that Damian Wayne had clone versions of himself. But it's like there was a shame they did a good storyline called Super Sons at one point back when like Jonathan Kent was about the same age as Damian Wayne. They called it Super Sons. It was actually a really good comic run. It was only that when Bendis came in and decided to age up Jonathan Kent and ruin it all, and it was just like, so don't have that anymore.
So Jonathan Kent is Superman's son. Then
he's bisexual.
Yay, we love the bis.
He's bi, but he's only had a boyfriend, so he really at the moment I'd say he's gay.
Okay.
Because he has. No girlfriend.
Are we still waiting for that time that DC is just going to come out and say, you know, so and so is a new character is gay, whatever? Are there many new characters nowadays? In the DC world?
There's characters that have been and gone. Oh, actually, Sideways was gay, wasn't he? There was a new character called Sideways at one point, and he could just use his fingers to cut through space time and jump from one place to another. And I think
It sounds very Philip Pullman.
Yeah, but he was. I don't know the Pullman stuff. You're gonna have to do a podcast on that. Into that.
His Dark Material, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know if there's enough. I don't know how gay it is, but it's pretty geeky. If they make a season 3, then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
I tried to read the Dark Materials. I got all the way to the end. I got like a little, what would I say, about 2 millimeters from the end of the book, and Lyra was running around like the Arctic, trying to get all these people to stop being separated from animals. I was like, I hate this book, and I closed it. And so I was like, no.
I'd say book 2 is good, and the book 3, the Amber Spyglass, is just kind of like really sort of world buildy, and it's actually my favorite, probably the third one, because it talks about like because it sets out the rules of the universe, like how they work. Okay, side note. Okay, Nick's not here to sort of keep me on
still
track.
Here.
Oh, damn it!
Is the third one where they have like the weird alien Snaraf creatures that only
Yes!
have okay.
And they like
Yeah.
roll around on like wheels
Yeah.
that are actually nuts from the tree, or whatever. It's really
Yeah.
bizarre, but yeah, I love. Okay, I love anything that's like sci-fi fantasy, which just goes off the wall. Like I've told you before, Nick, how like Star Trek is just every alien is just like human with makeup on. Anyway,
Soft science, soft sci-fi. Yeah.
soft sci-fi, yeah. So basically, what was my point? I don't remember my point.
See, this
You're
is why
wrong
we
about
don't let you
Star Trek.
show
They're
off.
not all people that dressed up like aliens. If you look at the Xindi insectoids, they were CGI.
Very few people.
In more
I mean,
recent in more recent years, they've done a lot more CGI people in Star Trek because, like now,
well, I guess they can.
it was just limited by '90s TV budgets.
Yeah, no, I get that. And then, like, when you get weird ones, they have to sort of play with CGI. And nowadays, it looks really bad. Like, I just watched one recently where it was a non-humanoid sort of slug kind of thing attaches itself to B'Elanna and drains her life force, and they have to sort of resurrect a Cardassian expert on.
Oh yeah, I remember
biology or
that.
whatever.
Operator.
Okay, so you have seen that one. Yeah, I got thoughts on that one. We'll do that one later, Nick. Well, yeah.
One of the first CGI alien species they had was actually in Voyager, wasn't it? Because that was species 8472, because they were the people that were trying to
That's
kill the
true.
Borg. They were CGI.
Well, unless you count the CGI like macrovirus, that really dodgy looking macrovirus
that was in season
Janeway
2.
kind of like karate chops or whatever to like
To be honest,
Okay,
I
now
love
we're getting off topic.
Yeah, totally.
Voyager is another day.
CGI.
Let's stick with D.
Sorry, tangent went on.
Yeah.
Shall we do Smash or Pass? I was ready for this for you too because I've curated a list of and I don't know if I want to do this as like would you rather or like Smash or Pass or who would win in a fight kind of thing. I kind of would say
No, would you rather? Would you rather fuck this one or this one?
okay, fine. We'll do would you rather. I don't have an intro for this, Nick. So if you just like just put Smash or Pass like in reverse or something like that. I don't know.
Reverse or pass? Okay, we'll try and think.
Pass
of
or
something, but
Smash?
would you
Yeah.
pass or smash? Yeah. Would you
Well,
rather?
that's-
edition?
yeah.
I'm sure we can like just take the audio intro and just reverse it and it sounds really weird and just
Let's
say-
get to it before my phone crashes. Go on.
Okay, so I have a list of 16 pairs of characters, one from Marvel, one from DC, and they have something similar. There's similarities drawn, and so you can talk about the similarities if you want to, or just say who would you rather, and you both get a vote. Okay, are you ready?
Okay.
Yes.
So the first one is the only one that I'm interested in really right now. Very similar characters: Batman and Moon Knight.
Batman. Moon Knight's crap. I've watched that series, it was crap.
Yeah, you're going off just the series though.
Batman has money. Oh, fuck Batman. There you go.
Okay,
Also,
okay, good.
Batman's hot.
Like, Moon Knight's crazy and poor. I mean, yes, he's Oscar Isaac, but I'd much rather...
We have all seen Batman's penis because of DC Black Label.
And we've seen Batman's penis, so I'm fine with that. Batman,
True.
final
Yeah.
answer.
Here's your second one. Now I'm going to throw you for a bit of a curveball because these are similar characters, and I'm glad you mentioned money, Nick. Because here's your second pairing: Batman and Iron Man.
Oh, still
Similar-
Batman.
Batman.
Okay,
Still-
similar characters. You know they got their enterprises. Fine. Moving on: Hawkeye and Green Arrow.
Green Arrow. Green Arrow's rich from her. Also, Green Arrow in the comics is actually really cool. The one they had on telly wasn't the right kind of Green Arrow. Green Arrow's quite sarcastic and funny too.
And even if it is the TV version, Stephen Amell versus Jeremy Renner, Stephen. I'm going with all the DC ones. Green
What?
Arrow. Fuck Green
Okay,
Arrow.
Stephen Amell, hot. Also the guy who I got confused about before, played it back in Smallville.
Oh, yeah.
Justin Hartley.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he was.
He's very hot. He's very crushable. Next
Oh.
one, I'll do either of them. Yeah, both at once. Both Crisis on Infinite Girth. Okay, next one, Aquaman and Namor.
I don't
Namor.
really know about him, so I'm going to say Aquaman.
Okay, what are your
Definitely.
reasons?
Although I'm thinking comic books because Jason Momoa wins everything, so I don't think that's fair. So I'm going to say comic book characters, Namor, because he wears the tiny green trunks, and I'm into that.
Sure. Okay, I'll buy
At
it.
some point, Aquaman has more tiny green chunks as well, because they've changed his outfit quite a few times throughout his continuity.
What's your favorite in it, Del?
I would go back Aquaman.
No, I mean like, what's your favorite outfit that he's ever worn?
There was one that they did years ago. It was basically just made of water, and it could bring it on and off at will. And I kind of like the idea that you can just snap your fingers and it's gone.
So he was nude, but non-see-through
He had like an outfit that was
water.
like a weird blue spirally outfit. I'd have to Google it to find it, but it was like basically made of water, and it was
Cool.
brought on at will.
Which is famously transparent, but okay, fine.
But
Yeah,
in this
water.
case, it wasn't transparent. He had some way of making it not transparent.
It was the bubbles inside the water that made it opaque, I
That
suppose.
was weird. I'd have to Google that to find out what that outfit was again.
Okay, here's the next two that they're often very compared, but I don't think you can have any sort of comic book realm without some sort of speedster. So Quicksilver or the Flash.
Quicksilver.
Yeah, comics version.
But it's just because every version of Quicksilver that's been played in a film that I've seen has actually been quite fit. So,
Yeah.
whereas all the
See,
Flash characters I've seen in films are a bit weird or just not quite pretty.
Yeah.
I don't like either. I mean, no offense to either of them, but I don't think either of them are hot. Aaron Taylor Johnson or Evan Peters.
Aaron Taylor Johnson is so hot, it's horrible. He's so sexy, it's ridiculous.
Nah.
Aaron
Overrated.
Taylor is hot. I'm sorry, he is hot.
So hot.
Yeah.
Even Evan's hot. Anyway,
And
yes.
And I heard
Yeah.
Aaron Taylor Johnson
Quicksilver.
is actually a dick on set as well. He's mean. He's
Yes.
rude
Wait,
to his
is his
cast
dick
members.
out on
He is.
set as well?
No, he is a dick. Okay, next one is very obviously Marvel stole from DC in this one. Deadpool and Deathstroke. Do you go for the Slade or do you go for the Wade?
Deathstroke.
Yeah, Slade's better. Slade looks better.
Is that because he's a
Slade's
villain?
sexy. Wade is not.
Slade's not really a villain. He's more of an anti-hero because he does stuff for contracts, not for a reason. He gets paid to do what he does. Because Slade's
That's
not
like the
actually
voice actors who've done. He's got a really sexy voice in like the Teen Titans and all that other stuff. It's really sexy. So
Actually, if you go
Slade.
back to the Deathstroke comics, when they did the New 52, they did one point where they de-aged him quite a bit. When they de-aged him, he was actually really hot in the comics. I remember them showing that he comes up de-aged wearing almost nothing. In the comic, you're like, oh, that's a comic book character, but that's kind of hot.
that will do. We are there
Yeah.
for that.
And also, if he ever shows up again in the DC EU, he'll be Joe Manganiello,
Joe
who
Man-
we've
Manganiello.
already.
Oh.
And no one can say no to Joe Manganiello, can they? Because he is
Nope.
probably one of the best man ever.
No, we've spoken about him before. Next one: Black Lightning or Electro.
Black Lightning.
Black Lightning. Oh my god, DCs are all hotter. That's
Yeah.
not
It's true.
absolutely Black.
Electro is Jamie Foxx, isn't it? In the films. So
In the films, yeah.
Jamie Foxx
Yeah,
is better.
but-
Looking. Sorry, he is better looking.
Then The Rock.
No, because Black Lightning in who's he played by on the TV series?
Oh, I'm thinking Black Adam. Sorry.
Black Adam.
No, who's the guy he's played by in the TV series? Out of Electro, if you're going with the two characters that play him in the films, you've got to go with Jamie Foxx because Jamie Foxx is fitter.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No one's
Next
going to
one.
say he's hot.
Agreed.
Next one is Catwoman or Black Cat. Another
Oh, come
obvious
on.
steal.
No.
Catwoman. Can't beat Selena Kyle, and every incarnation of Selena Kyle that's ever been done is in film or telly has actually been brilliant as well.
She is
Halle
also
fucking Berry. Really? You really want to
Uh,
down
you
that
know
hill?
what?
not
Halle-
everyone.
Like, can I fuzz over that one and just pretend it didn't exist?
yeah.
I'm just going to fuzz over Halle Berry. But then again, Halle Berry was better as Storm. Halle Berry redeemed herself as Storm, so she's still winning.
Oh.
Redeemed.
I'll say Black Cat, just cause.
Just because you wanted to go for the Marvel.
Yeah.
I mean, also she's a much more popular character, Catwoman. Like she is
Oh,
very
massively,
hot
yeah.
in every single film that she's. That's part of her. That's part of her character.
Have you seen the TikTok video of of Catwoman in the parade walking around with the whip dressed as Michelle Pfeiffer? She's so insanely hot. She's got the full on whip. She wraps it around herself. Everyone is now a lesbian when they see it. She is so hot. See if
I
you
feel
can
like you
find
need
it.
to send me this video so I know.
If I
Yeah.
find it, I will send it to everyone. She's incredible. So we need to find her and make her famous. Anyway,
Let's do it. But what if the thing is like the difficulty is now because Catwoman is such a ubiquitous and well known character. If you introduce Felicia Hardy in an MCU, people be like, "What the fuck? This is Catwoman." They're trying to take off Catwoman. Which,
No, I don't
to be
think
fair,
so.
they are.
Because what Felicia Hardy's actually done, it's like they are similar characters. They're both cat burglars and stuff like that. But the way Felicia Hardy's written is because she just sort of got it was because it's a family sort of business is why she got into it, because they've used her in the games. Like if you look at the recent Spider-Man games, she was in it, and they actually portrayed the character as like quite a sexy character, but she's also much sneakier than Catwoman, whereas Selena Kyle's more in your face. It's like, I'm going to do this, I don't care whether you like it or not, whereas Black Cat will sort of be trick you, pretend to do something and then lie. So they do have different mentalities. Selena Kyle's more like, I'm doing this whether you like it or not, whereas Felicia Hardy's just like, yeah, I'm just going to sneak around and not tell you what I'm doing. That's the difference.
Okay.
I hope they do it well when they make a film.
They will. It'll be a matter of time. I'll go for Catwoman as well, purely because she wears more leather.
Damn it.
Yeah, very good. Okay, next one is Ant-Man or the Atom.
Nah, the Atom's boring. It has to be Ant-Man. Plus Paul Rudd.
Okay.
You can say no to Paul Rudd.
Everyone loves Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd. He doesn't age. We kind of love him.
Do we like Brendan Routh though? As Ray Palmer?
I hated him as Superman as well. Brandon Routh is just no.
The poor guy. I think we're the same height as well.
Brandon
Ant-Man
Routh
beat his wife at one point. In the
I don't like him. I like a bit of edge.
Doctor Strange or Doctor Fate? I know nothing about Doctor Fate.
Doctor Fate again. DC is sexier. Damn
really?
it.
Doctor Fate's very different though.
You're gonna like
Doctor Fate. Like I'm just going by the cartoon. So in Justice League, he's voiced by that guy from The Mummy, and his voice is so sexy. So I'm going with just Doctor Fate.
Oh, the bald guy from The Mummy. What's his name? Billy Zane.
The Arab guy, and it's not Billy Zane. Who's the thing.
Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, okay. Here's the penultimate one. Scarlet Witch or Zatanna? You've mentioned Zatanna earlier.
Scarlet Witch. Can't beat Scarlet Witch. She's just
No, come on.
No, I love Scarlet Witch. It's like now, ever since they've done her in the films, I like Zatanna. Yeah, she's a cool character, but yeah, I just say my spells backwards, and that's all she does. She basically says, "What is it? Stop." Is like, what is it? Stop backwards.
It's Hattie Bell.
Is it Pots?
Who are you gonna fuck though?
Who are you gonna fuck? And how does Zatanna?
I kind of think Scarlet Witch be a bit freaky because she's a bit crazy too.
You didn't go for Moon Knight crazy.
Yeah, no, but there's a different kind of crazy. Like,
no, you said he was poor. That's why you didn't want to do him.
Yeah, he's poor. I don't want that.
I have a question. How would Zatanna make a spell about a taco cat?
All right, we don't have time for this.
Okay, last one. We'll skip ahead. The big bad villain. You've mentioned him earlier today. Thanos or Darkseid?
Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos. Darkseid's made of rock. That would hurt.
Yeah. If you're bothering.
He's made of rock. Okay, I suppose.
Rocks. That would hurt.
Although we don't mind Korg, though.
Darkseid probably shoots lasers from his dick, so let's probably not.
Oh god, that reminds me of that episode of The Boys where he blows up in the Venus.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw. Oh my god, I literally saw that one recently. Cool. That's my list. We didn't get the whole thing, but we have to get going, I suppose. Nick, do you want to wrap it up?
Thank you so much for being our first official guest on Incomplete Geeks. I feel like I've learned a lot. I have a lot of reading to do. Where should I start? Where would you recommend I start if I'm starting DC?
I'd say, you know what, actually, a nice place to start at the moment is actually the Earth 1 comics, because there's not many of them for each. So Earth 1 is like basically a new continuity for each of the characters. So there's probably about between 2 to 3 volumes for each character. So they've done Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Teen Titans, and Green Lantern so far. And they're starting with fresh continuity and really, really nice storylines. So it's as if they're starting from scratch. So it's like, so each of the characters has fresh continuity. It's completely new Earth. You don't have none. The writers are hampered by anything that's happened before. I was very impressed with their take on the Green Lantern because they really changed how the powers worked. Wonder Woman, they've gone back. So they brought like the invisible vehicles back and things like that. It's really interesting. They've gone through their favourite bits from the continuity and sort of brought them in. So I really recommend the Earth 1 storylines. So if you Googled or go on Amazon, just search for DC Earth 1, you'll see all the different ones.
Thank you.
It's a really good place to start if you're starting new. Because that's like, and there's not a lot to read. You can read like 3 volumes of those and then go back to your normal Marvel. And then if you want to go long term into something, give me a call back. I'll tell you what to start on.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Next episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for
On
that.
the next one. Right. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. If you would like to get in touch with us, or if you want to tell us what we got wrong, or recommendations for new episodes, email us incompletegeekspodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to reach out to us individually on social media, you can find John on Instagram @JohnMarks, JONMARX, Marks the Spot. And
right.
I'm on Twitter @NickBakerGeek.
Yeah.
Thank you again. We apologize for getting anything wrong. We are doing our best.
Give us a follow. Give us a 5-star rating on whatever podcast delivery vehicle you have. It really helps us out. We like doing these. We want to do more of them, but we need your help. Just give us a 5-star rating. It's very simple to do. Do it now.
Do it now.
Well, I apologise for anything I got wrong.
But that's the point. We are not complete geeks.
But we are working on it.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.